I'm liking that. It's like a family reunion. All right. This is good. Did you guys bring dessert? Oh, we're on now? Okay. So, good evening. Welcome to the City of Groton Committee of the Whole for Monday, February 28, 2022. Clerk Peters, please call the roll.
Present, we have Mayor Keith Hedrick, Deputy Mayor Guinevere Depot on the way, Councilor Rashad Carter, Councilor Lisa McCabe, Councilor Paul Norris, Councilor Christine Piazza, Councilor Stephen Sheffield, City Clerk Megan Peters, and Finance Director Ron Uhas.
Okay. So we have several appointments in front of us. What I'm going to do is we'll go through each of the appointments, and then at the very end, I'll ask to move the block of appointments to the mayor and council meeting for March 7th, 2022. All right, the first appointment is Brian Clinton for the Ledge Light Health District. He is a new appointment, but you can look at his resume and see that he is qualified. And we do have an opening for Ledge Light Health District, and I don't think Brian's here tonight. So any questions or comments on that appointment? Okay. The second one is George Scully for the Southeastern Connecticut Water Authority. This is a reappointment. We just reappointed Marty Artali to be on the Southeastern Connecticut Water Authority. This would be George's reappointment as well. So are there any, and George is not here. Is there any questions on this reappointment? Okay. Tony Patterson. Tony, are you here? Tony's here. Okay. So I think you guys are aware, we had a youth advisory committee. Basically, we had a loss of membership, and then and as a result of that, it kind of disbanded. We are reconstituting the youth advisory committee, and we've reached out to several people to get that started. Some of them are here today, and Tony Patterson is here. Mio Santiago is here. Andrea Leno, Andrea, did I see you come in? Okay, Andrea Leno's here, and Kiona Strickland are here. So they're here. If anybody wants to talk to them or ask them any questions, you can. I did tell them in advance that we're not interrogating them, and we're a friendly committee here. So actually, well, I tell you what, Councilor Carter, you need to be careful because they have a request to view. You know what the request is, right? So if you have any, but you do know one of the.
I know several.
Yep.
It's not more of a question, but just to commend you guys for stepping up. I know we did reach out, but from what I see, everybody out there wanted to do it. You
Absolutely.
know, it wasn't a whole lot of like pulling legs and pulling arms and that. You know, so and as well, everybody out there also, and if you think about it, I mean, it makes sense. You know, everybody out there is involved in other things too, as far as the community and with the kids.
Yep.
You know, so it just shows their testament to the youngsters and the residents of Groton. So we commend you and look forward to working with each of you.
I did have the opportunity to speak to each of the members, some just before the meeting and one before the meeting early on. And this is absolutely an impressive group. And they have our youth's best interest in mind. Many of them already work with children or young adults or a little bit older. And we do have people that are, and they have experience in this, and they want to give back to our community. And this is a tremendous opportunity, and I want to thank you all for saying yes to this opportunity for us and for our kids, because it is absolutely important. They are our future. They are they're going to get us to the next stage. So anybody have any questions? Deputy Mayor Depot.
My question is more, I guess, well, about the committee as a whole. So is the committee going to be 4
How many?
people?
We're going to have 7.
Okay. Okay.
But these are the first 4 that have agreed to be on. We will bring you 3 more.
And did we have like a variety that we were looking for? Like, I know we had talked about specific, were we looking to get like a teacher and a parent and a, you know what I mean? We had kind of discussed that. Is there, did we come with a list?
Kind of, hold on. Mary, are you not equipped, are you prepared to speak to that? I mean, I could get each one of them to come up and say what they do. We could do that.
I wasn't,
I would
I
like
wasn't
that.
meaning, oh, okay.
I would like to have each one come up and
You want
speak,
everybody to
sure.
come up so you can interrogate them?
Not to interrogate, but no, just to show their views
Okay,
of how they want to
not a problem.
contribute.
But hold on, let me stop both of you. Let's go back to Deputy Mayor DePuy, you had the floor. Your question was, we
It-
had talked about trying to get different disciplines in. Mary, can you speak to that?
Can I
I'm sorry.
first clarify why I'm asking that?
Sure.
Mostly because if we have 4 now, I was just wondering if there was like a certain groups that we're missing that we could go, like, if we're missing a teacher, for example, then we could all be like, oh, I have a teacher in mind. That's why I'm asking.
Sure. Mary, can you help me with that or no? Yes, please, if you don't mind. And then I'll go back to Counselor Carter and then Counselor Sheffield. I will,
Only thing to say was, I think what you're gonna say.
well, let her say it. She has the floor. Mary, you have the floor.
So yes, when we brought this back on, we were going to look for a diverse group of individuals. We've been reaching out, and we have some wonderful people who have stepped up. We are going to look. I know there was a discussion about having a teacher. We've also talked about having a student. So to get the ball rolling, the individuals that stepped up have a very vast knowledge of what we're looking for and where we want to expand this advisory committee to. So now it'll be. I've been working with the mayor's office. To try to see where we can reach out to a teacher, maybe middle school teacher, see if there's a school student council group that we can see if their president wants to sit on our group. So we're going to start to narrow it down to what we are missing and fill those pieces in. We looked initially at maybe having 5 people, but we thought 7 would be better because it was just a matter of I just don't want 13 like we had in the
Right.
past. So 7 seems to be a good number. 9 works nice with the Beach and Parks. It might have a liaison from the Beach and Parks Committee on this committee too, so that they know what's going on. So
Sure.
when they're asked in the community, they know what's going on.
Okay?
Did I
right.
answer it?
Counselor Carter, you,
So when we had talked about that, it wasn't, and it was, I'm glad you mentioned that last thing, the liaison. It wasn't necessarily a teacher, because you're not always gonna have a teacher that can do this. It was somebody connected to the school
Sure.
as like a liaison, as you were talking about.
Yep.
So a connection to the school, that would be feasible. That's what we
Okay.
were looking at, so.
anything else for Mary? Counselor Piazza?
Thank you. I just want to know when you're selecting the people to be on it, what's the primary, if you can, wrap it real, in a Reader's Digest version, of what's the primary goal?
Well,
That we're
currently, we're
looking
just, the individuals that are with us today are individuals that work in our community with our youth already. Like, one of them is in charge of the youth football program. Well, the goal of the advisory committee would be to facilitate how we can embrace their program and help them get more kids involved, especially city kids, kids that may not even know the program's there, in ways that we can facilitate them coming to, our summer playground program and having them talk about the youth football program. So we're looking at things that, but not all the kids in this community play sports, so we try to find other avenues in regards to ways that we can engage, find what's out there for the youth, work with the committee to help promote what's already may already be there, and or see what the kids are looking for. So, so engaging with the groups of people that already have those connections will help us get there.
Perfect. Anything, Deputy Mayor DePuy?
I just want to add that I wasn't trying to imply that this isn't a diverse
Nope.
group, because by their resumes, it is a really good, they're all in kind of different places, like geographically and career-wise, and doing a lot of stuff, so I think that will be really cool, and it's a good idea to kind of have a core group and then reach out and kind of grab a few more people, but I just wanted to echo what Counselor Carter said, and thank you so much for volunteering, because this is a big, I think, gap for our community. And I feel like it always goes in waves, the population of the age group that we're targeting now. So sometimes we have a lot, sometimes we have a little, and it's definitely, I think, something that's missing in our community that we're trying to ramp up, so.
Anything else for Mary? Counselor Norris?
I would just like to say thank you and to the folks that have stepped up here. What's really neat about this is you all work with a vast number of kids, which working in this group can broaden their horizon to other things. So you guys also become the marketing experts and public relations for the city, so I appreciate that.
Anyone else? All right, Mary, thank you very much. And thanks for helping me get this together.
You're welcome.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll bring people up to the front and just talk to the microphone. Tony, you just happened to be first on the list. Would you mind coming up?
I was actually volunteer.
All right, we'll hurry then. All right, so council, I present to you Tony Patterson. Tony, if you want to talk real quick about your interest in those kind of things, that'd be good.
First off, I grew up here in Groton my entire life. I think that a program like this is what's needed. I feel like myself as an African American will be able to reach out to specifically the younger youth that live in Branford Manor and let them know that there are other things besides sports that you can look into. And I feel like them seeing me be able to sit down at a table like this, that they'll give them different aspirations to possibly do the same. You know, growing up, Counselor Carter, he was one of my coaches when I played football at the high school. And once I saw him step into this type of light, it opened my eyes and saw that there are other avenues other than just playing sports. And so I feel like if I could bridge that gap and follow his footsteps, that would be something that I would love to continue to do.
Awesome, thank you. Questions from the council? Councilor Piazza?
I just have a comment. I wanted to thank you for stepping up to the plate, and, you know, it's interesting I know we were talking about it, but I was with a couple of friends, and we were talking about, they were asking me, like, so I said, well, what do you think the youth do in Groton City? So they started talking about things, but a lot of things they brought up was something that the youth can't access, something that's far away. They can't travel to it. They don't have, I said, but how are they going to get there? How much is it going to cost, and so forth? So I'm so glad for this board, because I feel like it's feeding off as like a passion of mine. And being a bus driver, I talk a lot to the youth, and, you know, to aspire, my words to them always is aspire for higher. That's my words to them. So I'm thankful for you guys.
Okay. All right, anybody else?
It's something about me, so I gotta say something about you. Yeah, Tony. Tony reached out to me actually a couple years ago about just getting involved with the city and the residents and whatnot. You know, so this is like it's a small. It's not a small step, but it's a step. But Tony's going to be doing a lot more things in the city. I bet you that. And what Mary knows for years, Tony comes back every year to help out the kids with the basketball program. He doesn't need to. He's not certainly getting rich off of it. And he probably doesn't even, I don't even know if you take a paycheck at this point, but he does that because he wants to give back to the youngsters of Groton City. So, and, you know, Tony's, he's good, educated, scholarship, football, Sacred Heart, you know, he's got a lot to offer to the city, so.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Tony, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Okay, Andrea, you're next on the list. Bye, Tony. Thank you.
Hello.
Council, I present to you Andrea Leno.
So to say
Andrea,
a few
I'll let
words about why I'm interested.
Yes.
So I am interested first and foremost as a parent of 3. I live in Groton City. I've been here, it'll be 19 years in May. I've been living in the city, raised 3 kids in the city who have availed themselves of every good program that we have. So first they went through the summer program, and then they worked at the summer program, running the arts table, Bill Memorial Library, including the town, right? Karate, they've taken everything in the town. And so I also professionally, I work with young adults at Connecticut College. I've been there for 23 years, and I can tell you, working with young adults, that the pandemic has been incredibly difficult, very hard on kids. There's a lot of mental health issues with young people and young adults, and now is the time to reconstitute this committee and get people out. They really need to socialize with one another. I'm very interested in program and structure. I started a little program, I'll call it a little program that's been very impactful between Connecticut College and the Regional Multicultural Magnet School in New London. I teach at RMMS. All three of my kids went to that program, went to that school, and they went through the bilingual dual language immersion program. And I teach Russian at Connecticut College, which is very much in the news right now. And we started teaching Russian at RMMS in 2008. My kids who are learning Russian as young adults were teaching to the little kids. Year after year, we got a big grant and started teaching Spanish, French, Japanese, Latin. They're teaching Latin now at RMMS. And I have to say, just put a little structure in place, and now we have a public school that's teaching world languages 7 to 8 a year. And hopefully that'll thaw out again. We haven't been able to do it live in person during the pandemic, but that's the kind of thing that we can do. And I do want to say, I think sustainability, social justice are areas where kids are already leading and interested, and we need to, I think it would be good to connect young people to the work that you are all doing around those issues so that they can actually impact the work of the council. So that cycle between young people, I know my kids are now 13, 17, and 20. They don't stay young forever. And then they grow up and they become leaders of the community. So I would love to hear, if I could ask a question of the council, a purview of the committee. So it's not entirely clear to me what this committee will be doing, and I'd like to know what you have in mind. Yeah, go.
Councilor Carter?
So, third term, right? It's our my third term, going to my third term. And we've had discussion before, and what, and like I said, it was implemented, then it kind of went to the wayside. Mary Hill wanted to implement it prior to COVID, and we got it back right now, which you said.
We need it now.
Absolutely, and what I imagine it to be is simply a way to bridge the gap between what our youngsters want and what's actually here, Often, sometimes, as a youngster, way back when, I didn't know that there was a way to get into the mayor's ear or the council member's ears, and this simply makes it easier, generational, we fall away from, what's hot and what's not, and, this committee helps that.
Hold on a second. Mary, have we put anything down in writing yet about, not bylaws per se, but, thank you, a mission statement or anything like that? Have we committed, I don't know that I provided you that.
I just have what we did in 2013.
Okay, so I'm gonna let the council speak, and then I'm gonna address your question.
Thank you.
With something, what's Deputy Mayor Depot?
I think one of the things that we've noticed as a council in general is that there's an information gap. There are things available potentially for youth that they don't even know about, and programs that we have that they don't know about. So I think part of what I am hoping for this committee is to figure out where those gaps are and how do we reach those kids, because not everyone's parents, like when I was growing up, my parents weren't necessarily plugged in to know what was available for kids. So making those connections, I think, is a big deal. And then finding out, this group, maybe there's a desire for, maybe we could connect them with the robotics team. I know we have them on the list tonight for something at the high school, or maybe there's a need for, some other type of activity where these kids who aren't interested in sports and aren't interested in, something else, we can find another activity that either we can create or, we can team up with the town to do, because the town has additional recreational space that we could utilize. And I know that Mary, Director Hill, partners with the town on some things because the town owns the schools, and, we already work together. So I think that's my main thing, is connecting kids with things they don't necessarily know are available, and then finding those things that maybe we could make available, that there's like a gap where kids aren't being served in their community. Because like I said, I think a big gap is where, like, if parents are working all day long, they don't necessarily have time to, find out what recreational things are available for their kids. They might not be able to do it or bring them there or whatever. So I think that for me is the bigger thing, is that getting the information to the kids and finding what they want to do and then making it work, whether that's getting grants for transportation or something. But I think that's my biggest thing for the board, is to fill that gap that
Thank
we
you.
kind of, in the city, have a hard time because we don't run the public school. We don't have an ear on that
Yep,
because of that.
thank you.
Any other counselor? Counselor Norris?
So, I was just pointed out, there's a whole thing of goals of what the commission is the committee's doing, assessing youth needs, resources, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I can tell you what my
Yeah.
dire wish is. Let's find the kids that are getting lost.
Yeah,
It's the kids that aren't engaged, the kids that aren't participating. How do we determine what strategies are needed? So one, we can find those kids, two, put an arm around those kids, and then say,
Yeah.
let's go wherever that place is that is positive and nurturing. So I think that's because we all know the good kids are gonna find what they wanna
Yeah.
do. It's the kids that are, they're going home, or they're
Sitting around, yeah.
sitting around, or they're standing on the street corner and having a can of Coke,
that was back in
So-
the day, now they're on their,
Right, exactly.
Right.
So that's my wish, is that we do spend the time to find those kids that are walking the line. And if we don't find them and grab them and nurture them now, they're gonna fall off the
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Any other council member? Counselor Piazza?
Thank you for your desire to be a part of this committee. I think one of the things is youth is a big thing for me. I used to lead youth in dance and drama and so forth. But so I think the big thing is a lot of times I see like the opportunities that my own children have had. And I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities for a lot of children. I think a large part of it is communication. Secondly is finances. And third is transportation. I remember long ago, though, there was something down, I believe it was, I want to say Washington Park, and they had like these little boards, this is before I was even on the council, and they were asking what we thought we should do with Thames, and I just think like when we're talking about Thames Street and buildings and so forth, there was a lot of people who put in some of those buildings to use them for youth, a place they could come to, a place they could do things at, and I would like to see that tied into that, maybe taking one of those buildings and really aspiring it toward the youth and,
Utilizing the spaces.
yes, for activities.
Excellent,
Thank you.
thank you very much,
Anyone else? Okay,
thank you.
so right now, we would be operating off a 2013 mission statement. Clearly, that is probably dated because we're in 2021. Or 2022, sorry. I do know what year, right after my calendar. My calendar's gone. So we're in 2022. So my initial expectation, and the team, this committee, is much more in touch with the youth than I am. So my thing would be, one, we would need a revised mission statement. Would probably need to do something, I'm gonna use my term, a needs assessment, for lack of a better term, and identify opportunity gaps to where we can address and actually target the different programs and the things that the youth need and want. And also, basically, interactions with the youth, right? How to get them more involved, and some of the counselors have already said this. We don't know what they don't know because we haven't asked them yet.
Yep.
Once we engage with them, then, one of the challenges that I see that municipalities where we fail is that we assume something and we go off and we do a program and we say, we're doing this because it's good for you. But we never ask the people that it's good for, is this what you want? So in my mind, this is going to be extremely important first of all, you are already engaged with the youth. But secondly, to get them more engaged, and like Counselor Norris said, find those that aren't out there, right? Find the shrinking violets, find the ones that could truly benefit from this. I mean, they could all benefit some, but those that could already be, in the shadows, for lack of a better term, and help get them engaged and help in the end, this is an opportunity to help the youth be the best that they could possibly be, right? Because I know when I was a kid, there weren't a lot of mentors around.
Yep.
And, you may want to find somebody that, who can I look up to? And this is an opportunity for us to reach those kids.
Thank you.
So
And the
this-
research does say that most kids, if there's one adult who cares about them, one mentor, you use the word, that's enough to make a difference for a lot of people, a lot of young people. So that was
Yep.
immensely helpful. Thank you so much, because the mission statements, they kind of go like that, but to hear from you all what
Yep.
you'd like to see happen, really helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else for Andrea? Okay,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
for the
you.
opportunity.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Mio Santiago?
Excuse my appearance, I just came from work.
No, you're great.
How are you?
So counsel, will you pronounce your first name, because I'm going to butcher it?
Mio Soti.
Okay, Santiago.
Santiago.
I present you to the council.
Yes, yes. So I have been a resident of Groton since 2012. My daughter graduated from Fitch. I am a mother of 3, grandmother of 4. I was a single mother, having, I'll get a little bit more into my background to tell you why my passion is children. I came from a household of 2 immigrant parents from the Dominican Republic. My father was an alcoholic. By the time I was 7, they were divorced. Now I'm moving around with my mom. She was a single mother working 2 jobs. I was the oldest. By the time I was 13, I was dating an 18-year-old. I was raped. I attempted suicide. I was placed in a psychiatric hospital. I was told I wasn't going to be a productive citizen. I was given up on by my parents. By 16, I was pregnant in Miami. By 19, I was pregnant by my second. My mother was incarcerated, did 10 years federal. And I feel so relatable with everything that's going on with these children today. I've been there, I've done that. It's been my mission and my passion, not only that, having been in a relationship at 24, domestic violence, being put in the hospital 5 times. After that, working at the World Trade Center for 10 years, having lost my husband on the 93rd floor. I escaped Tower 1. I was left a single mother with 3 kids. And it was very hard for me as a single mother, trying to provide, trying to be the mother, the father, trying to take care of the household. And I know what the kids are going through, because me as a child, I wanted to speak, I wanted to talk, but my mother didn't have time for me. My father was on substance. Both of them didn't have time for their children. And I believe right now these children in today's society, they're dealing with one-person households, a single parent, mother's tired, doesn't have time to focus on homework, doesn't have time to ask their children how their day was. Our children, where they're losing their social skills, they're losing all types of skills. And right now, I just started my organization now. I've made 3 years. I'm the founder of Exemplify to Edify. I've been hosting women's empowerment events as well as teen workshops. I focus on teen self-care workshops and healing through writing workshops. I'm an Amazon's best-selling author. I've written my memoir, and my memoir is my ministry. So not only for women, but for teens to just know that their story matters, that it's not the end. And your story it's not going to break you, it's going to make you into the person who you're supposed to be. And I just feel that a lot of our children are feeling, they're giving up on themselves, because sometimes the parents give up on them. The community gives up on them. They feel like nobody wants them. You know, they don't have time for them. And it's hard, especially nowadays with parents having to supply, you know, a house, a home. They don't have time for themselves. And what I came here for, I've learned so much just from hearing what I just heard. I just want to know how I can be a contributing positive factor to our children and our youth, especially now that I have 4 grandchildren. I have a 12-year-old grandson who refuses to take off his mask. He's dealing with social anxiety. He's been playing his Xbox the whole COVID, that doesn't even want to leave his room. And I'm trying to break him out of coming back to society. And my granddaughter, you know, having to not be able to play with her friends. Now they're so used to being alone, they don't even want to go to school. And I'm investing now more than ever into the children's mental health. Their mental health needs to be number one. They're dealing with a lot. You have suicidal children with no one to talk to. They're scared to talk to their adults because right away adults are trying to tell them what to do. We're not listening. We think what we think and they should just follow. They should just listen. And it's not like that. Every individual child has an individual need and an individual urgency of what they're lacking. And we have to approach these children one at a time, one individual case at a time. We're not doing that. We put them all in groups. We tell you what to do, and this is what you need to do. And I feel like paying more individual attention to each child's individual needs is very important because I wish I had that. I wish I had that growing up. I wouldn't have experienced half of what I've experienced if I had that mentorship and that guidance from my school. A lot of times you go to the guidance counselor, they're so overwhelmed. You're just another child with a problem. Go back to your classroom. We listen to you, but nothing gets done. And I think now more than ever is just time where we have to really focus on the mental health of our children. And I'm just here to try to help and try to be a contributing factor to the children in Groton. I've also just proposed an after-school program to the Benny Dover Middle School in New London. They're lacking. They're in desperate need. The children are out of control. They don't know where to go. They don't have enough resources and after-school programs for our children. You know, I'm part of the leadership program with the Chamber of Commerce of Eastern Connecticut, and I see all these projects being done, but I don't see any projects being built for the children. It's just for the future. Corporations building buildings and bridges, and I don't see hardly anything being introduced for the future of our children, and that's why I decided to get involved. And I just came across this scrolling through the newsletter one day, and I said, this is it. I have to try to get my foot in here somewhere to just make a difference. So I'm just a 50-year-old mother of 3 children and 4 grandchildren with a lot of experience, and I just want to apply my experience and my perseverance and resiliency into the children of these of this, you know, this city, so they can know that they don't have to give up on themselves and their situation. They can make it through. They can make it out. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Council? Councilor McCabe?
I want to thank you and all of you for stepping forward and helping with this committee. I think that the timing is really great as we're coming out of COVID. You touched on something, the socialization. You know, they've been sort of isolated for a couple of years now, and now is really a time when we want to try to engage and get them out of the room, off of the Xbox, and back into activities.
Correct.
So that they can just be kids.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else? I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Depot?
I just want to say thank you. Obviously, you already know this, but I think it's so powerful when you go through hard things to share that, because you never know who. I mean, I think when I was growing up, I don't remember people being so honest. Adults were never that honest about like life struggles, and I think that when it comes to mental health of children is so important, because kids know when you're hiding stuff or when you're lying. And I think being so vulnerable and honest, there are kids out there that will change their lives. And I'm sure you already have, because I feel like, you know, you put the effort out there all the time to do that. I think it is so cool, and we are, you know, honored to have you on this team because I think that you will have a perspective that no one else does when it comes to every activity. You will look at it differently because of your personal experience. And I mean, everyone will, but in particular, being a person that's so vulnerable and honest, that will change kids' lives. And I think it's so valuable to have you on this team, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Piazza?
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Santiago. I want to thank you for being so transparent. You've moved my heart deeply. And I want to say I'm a mom and a grandmom too, so I can totally relate. And I'm really looking forward into it when you're talking about mentoring. I was a nurse for many years, but a school bus driver now. And I think what I see too is exactly what you're speaking of. Somebody to listen. One of the students has said to me, who actually does a transfer bus with me to Benny Dover. And one of the words he said is, "You're really a nice bus driver." And I said, "Oh, thank you." He said, "Because you listen and talk to me." And that kind of broke my heart more than that. I was like, just thank you. But I thought, wow, one person saying that you talk with me, you know. And his other thing was like, that person yells at me, that person doesn't listen to me. It was really sad. So I really hear what you're saying in that, you know. So, and out of this, when we were talking about what we'd like to see, I think you could really spearhead up a mentorship program. That would be a really wonderful thing to get people to, and I would be more than happy to be one of those, because you know, there's a place I used to work at in Georgia, and one of their things is saving one starfish at a time. They actually had a cafe for that, so kind of reminds me of that story. But I would love to read your memoir. I'm going to look it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Carter?
She said so. I wasn't gonna say anything. She said something about the memoir. Like when you were sharing your story, the only thing I was thinking was, then you could write a book. And then you said you're a top-selling Amazon. I was like, okay, all right. Well, she got it there. And then we speak of this advisory committee. You know, it's a committee, and we still have one more person left to share. You know, I don't know how diverse you can get it with only 4 people on it right now. You know. So I'm excited, and I know a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago at this point, I think Councilor Norris mentioned, especially with his experience and him with government, and I believe you mentioned the Youth Service Bureau, right? And I think this could be, who knows, you know, caveat to that. You know,
Sure.
Pretty excited, you know, for this. So. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for disclosing that personal information too.
I believe in transparency. It's the only way we can heal. Sure. You know. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Kiona? Be gentle on Rashad. Okay. All right. Councilors, I present to you Kiona Strickland.
Hello, thank you for inviting me here tonight. Kiona Strickland. I am a Groton resident of recent. I am actually here on behalf of the Groton Mystic Youth Football League. I am the current sitting president of the league. My child has been in the league for the past 5 years, I want to say, about that. She's a cheerleader, so she's what brought me into this, love her to death. I have another child, 19, graduated Fitch last year. She's actually at 3 Rivers right now doing a IT major, so we're real excited about that. But I also work in the school system. I am a paraprofessional. I work with special needs kids. So that is my passion. I love those kids, but I feel like they are also a lost population. There's not a lot of programs around for them, mainly because people don't understand them. I feel like I'm a translator for them because most of them, I work with kids who don't speak. Their communication is pointing and screaming. Most people don't understand that and get frightened by that, but to me, that's just them. What would you do if you had a bad day and you can't talk? You scream and you point and you yell and you cry. But my child, my cheerleader, she's 11. Again, being out of school for 2 years, not being around their friends, she had a problem with coming back to school herself. She's actually in counseling. She probably wouldn't tell you that, but she is, because she has anxiety too. But for me, from my point, not only am I here on behalf of youth football league and how we can reach the city kids. We don't see a lot of city kids in our league, but also as an advocate for the special needs children.
Okay, council? Excuse me, Deputy Mayor Depot.
I just want to echo what Councilor Carter said. This is a really diverse, there's only 4 people. And it's like, it's surprisingly, like, everyone has like their own kind of area that they're an expert in. And I am really excited to see, you know, with everyone's perspective on, you know, advising on different activities and stuff and where we can fill the gaps. I feel like, I mean, I'm really hopeful that we can get a lot done for city kids. Like you said, I have a few friends whose kids are in like the Little League or the Football League, but I don't think that a lot of people who live in the city, it's similar to the senior center. We have access to it, but I don't think a lot of our seniors in the city know about it. And it's the same with the sports and other activities.
It's almost like it's because it's centered in town of Groton, they don't think they're either eligible to go over there or they don't have the transportation to get
Right.
over there.
So even figuring that out, figuring out the information, and even if there is an issue, we could figure out with, you know, maybe there are 10 kids in one neighborhood who want to play football, if we could arrange a carpool for them or something, even things like that, little things like that could make a big difference. But it's hard from us to see it, whereas you're sitting, you know, in the football league, you know exactly where those people probably are and how to fix that problem. You guys can probably figure that out between the 4 incredible people. It's a good group, and I'm really excited about it.
Council, anyone else? Councilor Piazza?
Thank
And
you.
then Carter.
Thank you, Kiona, for stepping up to the plate. I'm excited to have you. I too worked for DDS for the state. So, and I had a child,
I am
2
also a
children
respite care
with
provider, so I
children
do
with
go to
special
homes.
needs. Yeah, so that is a string for me, for my heart. I'd really like to see that develop. I would like to really see you take the lead on that. And I do have some connections in that as far as activities, so I'd really like to touch base, keep in touch with you.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we coordinate something. I would really be interested in that.
Yeah, I've done the summer camp for the Camp Button for the town of Groton. So they go to the parks once in a while. They go to Ocean Beach with other camps there. So they do try to get them out into the community. But again, they just aren't socialized anyway. And then there's COVID that just compounds all the situations. So they don't understand, or some people just don't understand how to socialize with them. So when they come into a big group, some of them just will drop on the floor, you know, and they're like, what just happened? You're like, that's just them, how they deal with it. But it's, like I said, that's my heart right there, especially these kids. They are.
I think maybe one of the things to touch on is, I'm not even sure if it's the right word to say, but education. And this is kind of analogy for me. So when I look at grief, because I've lost a child, we find as parents in a group that I belong to, that community and people out in the public don't know what to say, don't know what to do. And then sometimes how we feel about that back and forth. And then how do we connect better, you know, so people aren't, such as how our children with special needs, how do we help the community, you know, to become a part of their lives, let alone always having them reach out.
Yeah.
So it'd be another great avenue to do too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Carter?
So I don't know if I like how you said you're currently the president, like to insinuate you're not going to be one day. You know, I don't know. So anyway, so I hope that's not like a foreshadowing, but she's done a great job as stepping in over the last couple of years. I think one of the biggest challenges, not to put in your, I have a tendency to do that as well, speak for other people, but I will.
Yes, you do.
She's going to, I believe it's Groton Mystic's actually intention to come to the council at some point, and I'm not speaking this in your capacity, and Groton Town as well. She took over Groton Mystic at a time where it's like, okay, we have COVID, right? And that league, which many other leagues, they thrive off of, fees from families, from parents. And a lot of our parents don't have anything, you know? So that's one thing, the financial could be financially draining to participate in something like football, right? And then mixed with the amount of people that haven't returned in the last couple of years, especially this year. You know, I know Councilor Norris, you stated, you know, we want the kids that don't, participate, you know? Well, this year in football, we had kids that regularly participated that just simply didn't participate, you know? And that's alarming, you know, that kids are just sitting home. And I think that she's doing a good job at the lead to try to get these kids back out on the field. I look at football as something as just, you don't have to be an athlete to play football, you know? You really don't. It's about being a part of something, and just being out there, you know? Even if you have special needs, there's managers, et cetera. You know, I think you're doing a good job staying with it. You have a battle, you and your secretary back there. You guys have a battle, yeah, or treasurer. Sorry, treasurer. I shouldn't have said that. I meant to say treasurer. You know, it's an uphill battle, but I think, you know, just you being committed and even doing this, it just shows your need and it just shows your passion for our youngsters out there. You know, so
Okay.
I commend you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Norris.
Thank you very much. Am I permitted to go off script for a second?
Are we on script?
Well, because
I'm not speaking from the script.
so, well, what I mean to
Have an
say
agenda.
is, these folks have an incredible amount of work to do. Assessing the needs of the community, identifying resources, making recommendations, and so forth. We're actually about to hit crunch time in budget. And I don't know if you have enough time to throw something in the budget and present it as part of, I don't know if there's a liaison line or is it falls under beach and parks, but I would request that we could at least put something in the budget for fiscal year '23 so we can do a couple of things like tackle some of these logistics, as in how much is it going to cost and what does it mean to assess the needs of the community, and at the least, picking up on Councilman Carter over there, do we look at providing some type of scholarship for Groton City kids that participates in community-wide programs like football or wrestling, whatever it is. So I just wanted to bring that up. Sorry.
Okay. So, there's several parts of that. Some of it may be able to be done this year, some of it may not, have to be phased in. The other thing, we're having, tomorrow's Tuesday, Wednesday, I think Wednesday's when we're having an Arpa meeting, right? Yes. So, Wednesday, we can bring this up. Mary, if I forget, mention this. We'd have to see if we can fit it into one of the buckets, and does it meet the criteria under the final rule for ARPA? If it does, we do have some ARPA funding that could be available. I understand if it does. I mean, we got to see if it fits. I don't know that it doesn't, if it does or does not. But you are correct. We are in budget season, and we may want to put a placeholder somewhere for an amount. I don't know what that means. You know, we would need to talk about that internally and figure that out. But you're right. At some point, we're gonna need some funding in order to. We can sit around and we can talk and interact, but at some point, there's going to be. You're gonna have to buy something, right? And don't know what the something is. But we're gonna need to purchase something, and if we don't have that in our budget, it's not gonna be purchased. So, I heard what you said, and I wrote a note to talk about it on Wednesday. So, any other counselors' comments? Okay, Kiona, thank you. To everyone that came out tonight, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your help. We look forward to working with you. Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to working with you on these projects. Okay, continuing on, we have Eric J., who is currently on the Eastern Point Historic District for a reappointment, and Marcia Gibstein, who is also for a reappointment on the Eastern Point Historic District. Okay? So I'm looking for a motion to move these to the mayor and council meeting of March 7th, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, number 2 is 773 Parks and Rec, Eastern Point Beach Concession Contract. Mary?
Can I just do it aside real quick?
Yep, go right ahead.
So we do budget some monies in our regular operating budget for new programming and other things that might come out of not knowing what the people want. So we could have some funding initially this year if we needed to.
Okay.
I'm really excited to work with this starter group of residents and committee members that want to be part of the advisory committee. So, and we still have three vacancies in the committee, so I'm kind of excited. So I just wanted to share that with you all.
Well, and thank you for what you've done in order to get these people on board, because this is a tremendous team already.
Yep.
And we'll talk Wednesday about the budget. I know we went through your budget this morning, but
Yep.
you can show me
Yep.
where that is, and we can look at that. So, thank you. But now we're here for the
Yes. So
concession stand contract.
So as most of you are aware, some of you may not, the concession stand that's operated at Eastern Point Beach, the operator of it every year gets to let us know by February 1st if they want to come back. So Groton Public Schools has set their letter of intent to come back for the 2022 season, as noted as in their contract that they can do that. So Ernie has submitted his letter to come back. They look forward to operating the concession stand for us again this year. Hopefully some items will return. We were kind of limited with some things last year because we didn't want a lot of crowding up on the stairs for people waiting for food, but he's excited. If we didn't have COVID, this would have been his 5th year, so it's his 4th year coming back with the kids in the Groton Public Schools Food Services Program.
Any questions or comments on this? Councilor Norris?
Can you explain how this works? Do we contract out the services there? Do they pay a fee? Do we pay them? How is that?
So they lease the concession stand from us.
Okay.
They're responsible. We own all the equipment in the concession stand. We as the city, and so anything that breaks or needs repair, we take care of. But he's responsible for all his product, staffing, and any health department inspection. All that stuff is responsibility of the person that we contract out with or the company.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I want to tag off of what Councilor Norris just opened up. So one of the things that we are going to do this year is I'm going to meet with Mary, and then we're going to bring it up at a committee of the whole, and we're going to talk about what do we want the concession stand to be, right? What do we have in mind? Because right now, we have a modest rent that they pay. We provide most of the equipment. They set the pricing and those kind of things. So I think one of the things that I want us to do, and then we'll also get the Beach and Parks Committee together to talk about where do we want to take the concession stand? What do we want it to look like? Do we want to charge more? Do we want them to be responsible for more? You know, those kind of things. Now, we have increased our prices, our rent,
Correct.
in the last few years.
Yes.
Because when it was under the previous group, it was quite low, and then we brought it up to get to a certain level to try to recoup some of the cost. Now, we still right now, we still own the equipment. So if the ice cream machine breaks, we buy a new ice cream machine. So the question that I think we want to talk about, I want to bring it up so we talk about it. If the answer is we leave it like it is, and you get a $1 hot dog and a $2 hamburger, then that's okay, right? Because that's where we are now. And now I will tell you, the school system has stepped up the menu. They've maintained the hot dogs and the hamburgers, but they've also gone with a garden salad and garden salad with chicken, and they've gone to healthy option menus as well down there. Hopefully they'll bring back clam fritters this year. I miss clam fritters. But, you know, they've done a variety. But something that I think we should discuss as a council is what do we want that concession stand to be? Are we looking for something cheap and affordable, and basically it's subsidized by us? Or do we want to go to a different level or whatever? And I think there is use in, there's benefit rather, to having that conversation at a committee of the whole.
I will share, we do charge them rent, and they also pay the utility bill for the 3 months that they're in there,
Right.
which ranges anywhere between $600 and $800 a month, depending how much use. You know, if we get rainy days, they're not open as often, so, you know, the power, you know, they're not using as much electricity, but, so they do cover those costs.
Councilor Norris.
I'm sorry, one more question. When we say they,
Whatever.
who's they?
So-
Because I can't heard school district. or
Well,
something.
so it's Groton Public Schools Food Services that currently are our occupant in the concession stand. They took over in 2017. Prior to that, it was a family, a husband and wife, that ran it for 35 years. And unfortunately, the wife passed away in April of 17, so we got somebody in, and we got the Groton Public Schools Food Services in to run it. And they've come back every year.
This same group also provides, if they get the USDA grant, provide meals to the children, a breakfast and a lunch it was 17 different programs. I don't know what the number is now, but they were also doing that, so.
During our summer program.
During our summer programs. And we're a beneficiary of that, as well as 16 other programs in the region. So, and they have a different line. I don't know how it's budgeted for them, but it's run by it falls under the school system, but it's the culinary program out of the schools. Councilor Carter.
As you said, so, and obviously you said I've been on for a little while, and I believe Deputy Mayor Depot may have been on, but I know Councilor Sheffield was on when we switched over to the students. And at that time, I believe that it was pretty much a consensus with both the Parks and Rec Committee and us that, especially with the quick transition with the kids, that it was a non-discussion as far as the benefits that it has with our students, you know, having our students run the thing, and, you know, we're not making a whole lot of money at the beach anyway, so we didn't have that discussion. And I'm thinking that, and I know what you're saying, Mayor, as far as having that discussion, but me personally, I think it would be a little bit more respectful to have that conversation when Groton decides to say, listen, we don't want to do this anymore. Then maybe we can have that discussion. I think if we have that discussion and say, okay, we want to switch it, I think we force we kind of get into a situation where we're forcing our students or Groton out of there. And I just don't know if it's right to have that discussion now when we still are kind of, you know, everybody's happy, the kids are happy, the kids are doing their thing, and it's a benefit towards them to kind of just change. I just don't get the point of it.
Okay, then let me go back and refresh our members real quick. One of the things we said we were gonna do, we did a short truncated RFP because we had to get something quickly that year. Right, everybody, do you remember?
Mm-hmm. I remember we got
Okay,
in, yeah.
so we did that. The other thing that we said we were gonna do is we were gonna go out with a full RFP the next year and do an open RFP and an open bid. That never happened,
Okay,
okay? We are now at a point where we've had this group that's there now for several years, and I'm not ready to go back to an open RFP.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that I don't think it's disrespectful to anyone for us as a council to decide what do we want to do. And we can talk to them. They can be part of this discussion about what are their capabilities and those kinds of things, right? So it's not one of these things where we're trying to force anybody out. It's not anything where we're trying to change things. I think it's a discussion that would be beneficial to us as a needs assessment, for lack of a better term, to see if the way our business model or model that we're doing this now is the right model for where we are in 2022.
No.
Because all of our programs in Parks and Rec are subsidized, right?
Everything, yeah.
Everything to a point. One of the things that Mary and I are talking about, and we're gonna have a bigger discussion this year, for next year, is making sure that our programs are more so that they're paying for themselves, right? So individual programs, like trips and things like that, they are fully paid for by the users. Our Parks and Rec programs are not, they're subsidized some, but we have some of the lowest fees around. And the same thing with the beach. Now, the beach is more, it's about 70%, is that right? 70% paid for with fees?
We bring in 53% of what it costs us to operate the beach.
Okay.
So going back
So
half.
it's a little bit less than what I thought, but still, we're still subsidizing some of that. And so we're gonna, part of this is, it makes sense to me to periodically look, and we haven't looked, to periodically look and see, is what we have down there, is that what we want? Is that what people want? And those kind of things.
Yeah, yeah, and the only thing I'm saying is, and I get what you're saying, and I get what the programs are low, like, especially compared to, I look at the basketball, I'm like, how's this paying? Like, but what I'm saying, if we're gonna, I'm looking at it as opposed, so the concession stand is the concession stand, but at the same time, we're worried about keeping gate fees low, et cetera, et cetera. So if we're gonna look at everything, and we're gonna look at programs, funding programs, then we have to look at the gate fees, we have to look at the extended hours, and we have to look at the lifeguards there, we have to look at everything. That's what I'm saying.
Okay? So let's go back to the concession stand. Anything else, any other questions or comments on the concession stand for the contract, for the renewal of the contract?
No,
I'm talking about for keeping the current contract for Groton Public Schools for the concession stand.
nothing for this year. I was
Okay.
just curious as far as, are we going to continually review it each year? Is that our
Absolutely.
structure?
Yep, that's what we've been doing.
Because the last discussion when we did the changeover was whether or not, like I said, an RFP to whether, did we want the concession stand to make money?
Right.
Profit was, and I actually voted, because I thought the council and the public were looking to, make money off the beach, but I guess consensus was, they wanted to keep it localized with the schools, which is fine. But I thought the chatter was about having the beach starting to make money. So we probably, if it's just going to be an annual thing, I'm not sure why, like I said, why bother going through the process of an RFP each year if we're going to continue
Okay.
having it as it is right now, unless there's going to be a change to where, do we want the concession stand to start making profits to where, for the city?
Right. Well, we're not doing an RFP every year. What we're doing is they get
Well,
first right of
right.
refusal,
Right.
and they have submitted a letter saying that they would like to continue. And that is what brought this to the council.
So if there happens to be a denial of that, if they decide they didn't want to do it anymore, then we would,
We would
Correct.
talk about an RFP.
okay. All right.
Yes. And I think that's why they give February 1st as the time frame, so that way we would have time to do that.
Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, hearing none, I need a motion.
I'm
Sorry, Counselor Norris,
What are we actually doing?
ask me that a different way. Right now, or the agenda?
Right, no, right.
Are we following the script?
Voting to move, so.
Are you off script?
Approving the concession?
No. What we are doing is, they have requested to continue to provide service.
Okay.
And so what will come to you next week is a resolution for them to continue being the operators of the concession stand.
You'll see a copy of their contract and what it falls under, what they do for us in the season.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to have a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of March 7th, 2022.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We're going to move on to 783, which is the Groton City Brew Run. Mary, if you could walk us through this.
Okay, so, last October, I believe it was, the first annual, Groton City Brew Run was, held, with the support of the chamber, and a committee of members of staff here in the city of Groton. One of the things that needed to be requested due to the fact that there's no alcohol allowed at the beach except for inside the Zaberski House. Last year, it was asked if the council would approve the use of alcohol at Eastern Point Beach for the one-day event, which this year they're scheduled for September 10th from 11 to 3, and that all alcohol would be for event use only and served only by the alcohol distributors who are allowed to serve. So the committee has asked me to come to the council to get that piece of this approved so they can move forward with their planning. Obviously, it's a little earlier than last year because now they've had one under their belt, so they know what they are up against or what they're doing. Just some statistics. Last year for the Beer Fest part of it, 350 people attended, paid and attended. For just the run, we had 239 people run in the race. There were 11 participated breweries, 4 of which had volunteers help pour. There was 4 food trucks and 4 outside vendors, like Gasp was there, I believe, and then some other places that were just for informational purposes only. They are looking forward to this year. It's going to be the Saturday after Labor Day, so it's going to be on a Saturday as opposed to a Sunday like last year. I think last year with the starting late, picking and choosing dates was a little hard because the Zaberski House was rented by the time they started throwing dates at our department and say, oh, when can we use it? So they're in the calendar for Friday and Saturday, so they can bring all their supplies in on Friday and have it all day Saturday. So that's their request to be able to serve the alcohol at one-day events again.
The inaugural event was absolutely tremendous here in the city. So that's why we wanted to bring it back to you. Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Depot.
Considering that they will be, so we have Friday and Saturday reserved for them at the Zaberski House, so we cannot rent that out to anyone else. Are we charging for that use of that building?
We did not last year.
Would it,
Kind of did it as the collaboration, apart from the city, as a community event.
while I am completely on board with the brew run, I didn't think about this last year, but it being on a Saturday and in September, that's probably definitely a day you could rent out the Z House. It's not like it's in the middle of winter, and often it probably goes unrented in the middle of winter because people aren't thinking about it.
Always rented.
Well, but I mean, even more so in September. September is probably a popular month to rent the Z House.
Especially that time of year in the fall, correct?
Right.
Absolutely.
So my question, I'm not saying that we have to charge them or that it's the right or wrong thing, but I don't even think we really fully discussed it because we were on a time crunch last year and we really wanted it to go forward, and not that I think that was the wrong move, I think that was the right thing to do. But if this is going to be an annual thing, not only are we not charging them, we're losing money from someone that we could charge for the use of that building. And, I mean, I think from my perspective, I think it depends on what they make from the brew run. If they're netting some profit and paying us a rental fee would be manageable for them, I would like, if they don't pay a fee, I would like someone from the chamber, maybe Bruce Flax, I know he's in charge, to come and explain why they can't afford that.
Would you be opposed if we asked for a donation for the day for use of the house, as opposed to like an hourly rate? Because they're gonna go in they could go on Friday at noon and be there till overnight. I don't
Right.
never charged overnight fees, but if, because, it's usually, we close the house at 11.
Right.
But they'd
I don't have anything
yeah.
in mind. I
No.
just think, it might be a good idea to compensate, considering that we are most likely losing rent on that house because it's at a prime, time.
So since we're losing revenue, let's go back to the committee and bring this up as a concern that was brought up by the council, and then see what their alternative is, right?
Sure.
And we should talk about, where do we want to go with it? Go ahead.
I just want to add one more thing. It's not out of the question that it's not affordable either, but I just don't know because we don't have that information. If they were to say, last year we made $10 and it's not affordable to do it, that obviously the brew run is a good thing and it might mean losses for a few years or us essentially donating the space for a few years to get it up and running. But if they are able to donate some sort of fee or something to compensate for the fact that we're losing rent, I do think that it's not inappropriate to ask them. That's all.
Nope, got it. Councilor Carter?
Yeah, and I remember I stated, again, I wasn't even gonna speak on it, but you mentioned it. I think this is a great thing. I'm all about running, I'm all about the event, et cetera, et cetera. Last year, it was kind of like just kind of thrown up, kind of honestly needed a decision now. We did it. But I do think that, we back it. Groton Utilities backs it, I believe, too, right? They're a major sponsor of it, and we don't really, what's coming to the city? I asked that question last time, and it kind of got pushed through, and which is totally fine. I think the question as far as what you're coming to us, I believe, this is a question, could we have liquor that day?
Correct.
Right? So I don't see why that has to be tabled today. I think we can push it, but as far as what the financial aspect of it, I think that has to be a discussion from now until that event happens. We mentioned other things with, staffing, with police, who's paying for that? Who's paying for overtime for Parks and Rec staff? If I wanted to go to Hartford and have a road race there, my organization would be paying for the overtime for the police, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's just something that we have to look at to see, okay, what's gonna, just another discussion. But I'm all for the
All right.
event, I'm all for pushing the liquor.
So what I'd like to do, I want to separate the two issues. I want to separate the event, overall event, from the permission to do alcohol.
Yeah.
Tonight, what I want to do is I want to talk about permission to do alcohol, and then we will reach out to that committee. We'll get, because remember last year, we brought somebody in to talk about it? Same thing. We'll bring them in, talk about it, and council can talk about your concerns, and then we'll go off with a to-do list and come back and brief council again. I think we're far enough out that we can do that. Is that reasonable to the council? Okay, Deputy Mayor Depot?
I just wanted to add, my intent wasn't to table it all, but if I'm correct, this is the only thing we vote on for the brew run, because it's the only thing we have to approve. That's the only reason that I brought that up, because I don't think we vote on anything else for the brew run other than the liquor license.
Is there a there's no, I'm
This
sorry.
is the permit.
So who,
Hold on. What? Hold on, you don't have the floor yet. Are you done?
All set.
Okay, so you're done. Okay,
so
you now
question,
have the floor.
question,
Ask your
what's this
question to me.
question? To both of you,
Well, ask it to her through me. That's how it works, right? Through the
I
chair.
guess, okay. So I assume that there's an application to have the event, correct? Or no?
Well,
Well,
there's
we had a
liquor
permit for,
but-
the Zabriskie House was filled out for them last year. But that's where the waiving, because alcohol right now currently at the beach is only allowed in the house.
No, I'm not.
So, but then the rest of the permitting was done, whatever necessary state permits they had to get for the liquor commission and everything else.
Yeah, I'm not talking
But there
about
was
that.
also,
I'm talking
the
about the
police were
event.
involved.
No.
The police were involved. There was something that had,
Talking about the
we had to
road.
get the
Yep.
route had to be approved.
Yep.
There were a couple other things that required approval. I don't remember at what level. I don't remember if it was here. I know, for example, the Ragnar thing had to come through here, the Ragnar relay.
Yep.
I mean, I call it a Ragnar thing, Ragnar relay, and that's gonna happen again this year. But that came to council as well. So,
There is a permit that they need to file with the state because one of the roads is a state road for the route, for the race, the actual race. And they do that through the police department here.
so let me,
Okay, but when, so what you're saying is that there's no we don't have a formal, say, event request form that needs to be signed or whatnot?
We do not.
Okay, okay.
all right, so let me go back to council. With the questions that we have, regarding the race and payment and all those things, do we want to wait on approval of this until we can get somebody to speak to us, seeing that this may be your only leverage, for lack of a better term? Counselor Norris.
If I may, yes, Your Honor, to wait on this. Because I think the conversation we're having now happened last year, and
Okay.
we never got any type of response.
Okay.
We talked about, so it's almost like we don't know how much they cost the city. We don't know what the logistics were. I have to say, because maybe I'm a little confused too. So if someone wants to use the building, they don't fill out anything?
There's a permit for the Zabriskie House, yes.
Okay, so this group did fill out?
Correct.
All right, so
But, yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
All right, hold on, sorry, Deputy Mayor Depot, you had your hand up first, and then Counselor Piazza, I'll get to you.
I think a lot of our questions were unanswered last year because they hadn't done it yet.
Correct.
So,
Hold on.
from my
You have the
perspective,
floor.
I
Right.
think that, the group organizing this is the Chamber of Commerce. It's several of people who work in this building. It's people who have the community in mind. I don't think the intent is to, abuse the privilege of using the beach at all. In my opinion, I don't think that we need to wait on voting for the liquor permit. It will help them plan because they know the date. I don't think that there's really a point to doing that. I think that the group that's organizing this is community-minded, business-minded for the city. They care about, what happens in the city, so it's not just like an outside entity necessarily. I think it's sufficient to have a discussion at a cow and go and have this back and forth with them. And I personally don't think that we need to wait to vote on the liquor permit for that, because I think that they will be receptive.
Counselor Piazza?
The only question I have in reference to the alcohol, was there any issues with the alcohol, them serving the alcohol? Were there any issues that came about that we need to relook at or anything at all?
No, none that I was
No.
aware of, no.
There were no police involvement, no violations of liquor license or liquor laws. It was a very good event, right?
Yeah,
It was a clean race, and then a lot of the participants were there afterwards, but then we sold a lot of they sold a lot of tickets for people that just participated in the beer garden itself. And we also had concessions, we had food trucks there and things like that. So it was and we had entertainment, It was a good event.
Yes, I'm sorry I missed it. My daughter had a swim meet, but I wasn't really particularly looking at violations, but I guess I was looking at, with children being there, was there any, like comments or things that we need to relook at or anything at all before I was actually to vote on it that we needed to hear about?
Councilor Sheffield?
Well, yeah, children can't come into the gated area yet, so that's taken care of, so I was.
wanted to see if there's anything that came from it, that's all, before I vote.
Councilor Norris?
Your Honor, if I may, I can't separate the two. And here's my scenario on all of this. So we approve this, the sale or whatever they want to do with the alcohol. But then we say, but you have to provide the city up to 0.5% of your gain to cover overhead costs to the city, that kind of stuff. And then they come back and say, no, we're not going to do that. So it's like we're kind of splintering off, in my mind, the conversation.
Can I make a clarification? It's not a they, it's really an us. This was a co-sponsored event by the city of Groton, Groton Utilities, and the Mystic Chamber of Commerce. So we kind of all worked collaboratively to have this pulled off in a short amount of time. But there were, Dan Bogues, our communication manager from Groton Utilities, was kind of the lead with Bruce Flax from the chamber to kind of get this into the city. So it wasn't just, it's an us. So it's not a they. So there was some collaborations and some things, we put up the snow fence to make the beer garden. The Parks and Recreation Department did as our contribution to this event. So, and that's where the house came into play also, is because you can't have a big old race and beer garden with somebody else renting the house. So it was we kind of gave them that indoor use, the store stuff. The volunteers all had use of those bathrooms as opposed to the ones in the Tyler house. So there was as a collaboration of. So do I think I don't, based on my involvement with the committee that puts this together, would they, I don't think they'd give us a no to paying or paying to use the house and or giving us donation towards the house for that, so we don't lose that revenue. They did fairly well for their first event. Correct me if I'm wrong, Megan. She was part of the committee too. So I don't think we have anything to worry about them coming back and saying, oh no, we're going to find a new location. But it was really more of a collaboration between the utilities, the city, the utility, and the chamber to try to get the chamber exposed to this part of the community. Mystic Chamber does a lot in Mystic. They didn't, they're trying to get their name here.
Okay, then I got it. If we want to say it's a collaborative effort, it's a joint thing, that's fine. Then I'm going to say, what is the city getting out of this? Because I understand tourism and economic development, but this is what I got. Because I had friends that participated. Yeah. They went to the event, they had a great time, then they got back on Thames Street, and they left the city. Yeah. So at least, and I think it was the deputy that brought this up almost a year ago, that at least can we put some type of information about the city and what happens in the city so they can leave with information about the city, because that's economic development. If they're just coming, having a road race, seeing certain streets within the city, and then literally just leaving or going to Mystic or Noank, as my friends were doing, then it's not a collaborative effort. We just provided a space. So I'm saying if it is a joint effort, then at least let's provide information about the wonderful places on tourism and visit centers that we have in the city in their race packets.
Deputy Mayor Depot.
Should that maybe be a referral to the Economic Development Department to put together which items they think are important enough to include in that packet? And maybe connect with the historic, or is that a task that the Economic Development Department is already doing for this event, or? Because I could see this is a different discussion though. So can we maybe have a discussion could we maybe, plan for a discussion about, either refer that to committee to start the discussion there, or have another discussion at a cow of what we think is important to promote, the city at that event?
Do you want to bring the chamber in next month to the next committee of the whole? And we talk about this as a group with them, with your ask? Or do you want to talk first and then bring them in, understand the clock's ticking, and you get to meet once a month unless you decide to do specials? Special cows, committee of the wholes. Hold on, I'll need to see hands, so I know who's, Counselor Norris, you have the floor.
I am fine with voting on the alcohol issue and moving forward if staff can say, we will work on putting together some type of tourism packet that, if it true, because it is a wonderful thing.
Okay, hold on. Okay, tourism packet, what else?
That was it.
Okay. Who wants to speak? Counselor Carter?
So, and we don't have to go with like they or we, like I'm more in the whole, like they, because of they came to the Groton City, they came to us. I think if it was a we wouldn't even be having this discussion now because we'd be involved in it. So that's why it's at least me, that's why I say they. The other thing is, we, as in Groton Utilities in the city, are putting money towards the event. I don't know how much money the chamber's putting towards the event.
I can't answer that, but I do.
So that's why I say they and we, that we're actually doing something, but back to what you're saying, what are we getting in return? They are having their race at the beach, sponsored by Groton Utilities in the city. And it's just, this is why I'm saying they, as opposed to we. And I just need more clarification. I don't feel too involved in it.
There was two people that came and spoke to you last year. It was Bruce Flax
Yeah.
and Jill Rusk. And Jill came on behalf of the city part of that committee, and Bruce came as the chamber. I only know that because I did read the minutes this afternoon, so I would know what language to share with you today regarding what language was shared last May 24th. So there was, I agree, there was open discussions that you didn't have answers to, and I think they couldn't, that now that they has, and I agree with Deputy Mayor Debo, now that they've had the event, they kind of probably can answer some of those questions. But it was a representation of both the city and the chamber at that meeting in May, based on the minutes that I read from your committee of the whole meeting, May 24th.
Okay, but what I'm saying as far as, okay, the initial thing and how it came to us, this isn't something that the city said, let's go ahead and do. This is what they came to. Go ahead.
Hold on.
It's for what, because what I would say is that, okay, there's either one, we can run ourselves, or two, there are many organizations that the city could back and funds could go to. Like, for one, like I said, Groton Mystic is gonna pretty much fail if they don't get any funds. They would love to be involved in the road race if it was a fundraiser and whatnot, you know? So when we talk about, like, you know, and I'm, like I said, I'm all for this. But we're looking at this as like some type of joint venture, and this is news.
It's the city of Groton.
That's because we named it the City of Groton. Last year, when you guys named it the City of Groton, I was opposed to that because I felt that we weren't involved in it.
Okay.
I said that. I said, why are we putting it on it? We're not even involved in this. They needed our beach.
Okay.
You know?
What is your ask?
What's asked?
What is your ask? Because you're talking about lots of things, but I don't hear.
I'm responding
I
to a
don't hear a
statement.
request.
I'm responding to a statement. Am I not allowed to do that?
It's supposed to be.
am
well,
I not allowed to do that?
We are off track.
Okay, well, then
We
I'm
are
done, though.
absolutely off track
I'm just asking you.
with the brew run on this, and we're getting into the minutia of the actual brew run, and that's not what this line item is for.
Well, that's fine, but I'm making a statement, and I'm allowed to do that, and my statement is done.
So okay, then you're done. Okay. So, is there any other discussion on the Brew Run?
No, I'm opposed to, go ahead.
I guess the issue is, are we gonna hold up the vote until we get word from the Chamber of Commerce? Or, I think that's where we're gonna table this until we get word, is that the real issue right now?
Right now, there is no
Hopefully
motion
not.
on the floor.
Right.
So I can either go for a consensus, or I can ask for a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting for March 7th of '22.
So moved.
Okay?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to move this for the alcohol portion of it, and that's what we're voting on. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Abstention? All right, so what's your vote?
2 in favor, 4 opposed.
Okay. All right, so we will bring this back next week, or next month, and we'll see if we can get the Greater Mystic Chamber here to address you. And then if you have specific questions that you want addressed, send them to me in an email. We'll give you 2 weeks. So we're bringing them in on the 28th. Nope, I'm not gonna give you 2 weeks. Well, I will. I'll give you till the 11th. So close the business, that's a Friday. Close the business on the 11th of March. On your questions that you want addressed by whatever questions you have, we will get the right person right group to address them. Is that clear enough? Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mayor.
The next one is 742 Groton Utilities. The first item up is utility purchase and policy procedure. This is information only. Sue, would you like to come up?
This chair's a little high for me, I'm sorry, my feet will be dangling. Yes, they are. Okay. Good evening, members of the council.
Thank you, Sue.
The purpose for this conversation is to bring to the council what we've already been discussing at the Utilities Commission level, and that is modifications to our current purchasing policy. It was approved in 2019, but is in need of some general revisions. So that's, we've received consensus from the Utilities Commission to proceed in several areas, and we want to get consensus from the City Council to move forward as well. What we have is a list of goals for this project. Part of that includes changing the schedule of authorizations to allow for greater flexibility for the utility to respond and react to what is currently an extremely volatile market for materials. You've seen votes come before you with a large contingency, and usually that's been based in a 7-day turnaround to get a purchase order issued. And when you have a significant purchase amount, in the hundreds of thousands. That extra cost to get those things turned around quickly can be in the tens of thousands. It's happened. I was at a meeting recently that occurred. And we're trying to give us the opportunity to be able to make those purchases more quickly, but at the same time provide greater oversight to the Utilities Commission for those major project purchases. So that's one goal of this. Another is to simplify the entire procurement process so that it's easier and more beneficial for all of those in the utility involved in procurement to follow a simple set of procedures. Right now, our policy has policy statements, procedural statements, redundant procedural statements. We'd like to separate it, have a policy that's clear and concise, easy to follow, and have procedural documents that can be changed as the business needs change. Right now, we have a procedural document on how to post a bid in the newspaper, something that we don't even do anymore for some of the things that we do. It's posted online. But because it's incorporated in the policy, we can't change it without approval of the UC and potentially the council. So there are many ways that this has become very restrictive for us. And we would like to move forward with making modern changes to it, simplifying it, and allowing us to have the ability to make major purchases quickly.
So,
Councilor Sheffield?
so you're saying that you want to make major purchases without the consent of the council?
The proposed schedule of authorizations has a guideline for, specifically for purchases that are normal budget, purchases that are for capital projects or non, whether bonded or non-bonded, purchases that are not budgeted, and discretionary fund purchases. Those categories have not changed. Our Utilities Commission has reviewed the revisions that we'd like to make. In some areas, we're increasing the limit before it has to go to council. Currently, we have a $50,000 limit before it has to come to council. We have routine annual contracts for software maintenance, for chemicals for the water treatment plant, and other routine items that are in our standard budget every year, approved budgets, but we have to bring them before the commission and council for a vote because of that limit. We'd like to increase that one particular limit to 100,000. And then the Utilities Commission would be viewing it at that level. That's one area of the schedule. There are others that we'd like to propose as well.
This is a very high, what I've asked Sue to do today is a very high level. And then she's gonna be coming back and we're gonna get into more and more detail. But the utilities and the commissioners have been talking about this for a couple months. And I said, the council is not aware of this. The council doesn't know. Eventually, you're gonna come to the council and say, I need you to approve this. And I said, I'm not gonna spring it on the council that way. We need a high-level review, and then we work in to get your level of knowledge up to where the commissioners are. Now, one of the things that you just dealt with recently was a short lead item. We had a quote that come in and said, you have 10 days. Our quote's good for 10 days. And it exceeded the amount, and it needed a commission review, and it needed a council review. It just so happened that we had a commission meeting right then, and that's why we scheduled a special meeting for the council in order to get it approved. We're not always going to have that luxury, and in some of the large items, like for example, the transmission project, and some of the other projects, we have a short window and the volatility of, can you get the product or not? And if you don't get the product then, you may move to the bottom of the line and you may not get it for 6 months or a year. And that's the reality of what we're dealing with. So what the utility is talking to me about is, how do we meet how do we have the policy so that the commission and the council are aware of the purchases, so they don't feel like the utility is just doing something willy-nilly and not keeping the utility commission and the council aware and informed, and in certain cases, getting your permission in order to do things. And at the same time, so one of the things that we're weighing is how to keep you informed and how to get your permissions. The other thing that the utility is weighing is how to be able to be resilient and responsive and nimble and be able to operate the business. So that's the balancing that we're looking at, and that's why this is going to be brought to you in the future. Does that kind of make sense or no? Sue, do you want to help me out here, get me out of this? I mean, what I said was accurate.
Absolutely accurate. Absolutely.
And this is one of the things that we have discussed with the Utility Commission. The Utility Commission is in agreement in concept with the philosophy. And in one case, it would be that I and the utility director, for certain things, not for routine things, but for certain things, short lead items, very high volatility, that we would go through, and I don't know if it's a checklist or what it is, but we would go through that. The utility director and I would agree that it needs to be done. I would be the final authority authorizing that, and then letting the utility commission know, and then letting the council know after the fact. Now, one of the things that I am sensitive to from being here on the council and from listening to this council and previous councils is that coming to you and saying, okay, I need you to approve something because we have a policy that says you have to approve it, but we've already done it, but you're approving it after the fact, right? The mea culpa kind of thing. So that's one of the things that we're wrestling with, how to get out of that so that the business can still operate in this volatility that we have, and then still that you as a council still have confidence that the utility is being properly managed and is not going willy-nilly, for lack of a better term. Sue?
And to add on to that, I want to make sure that it was very clear, we intend to improve and expand upon our monthly reporting for all projects and their status. So there was a time many, many years ago where that was a standard part of the reporting, and at least 3 directors ago that kind of slowed down and came to a stop. So we're improving that reporting. So rather than you get this piece of paper this month and approve this with no knowledge of what's happening with the project, we want to be able to be nimble and be able to place these orders but report to you on the status of the projects. And in our thought process is that that's really where your governance should be, at the higher level, knowing what's happening with the entirety of the projects.
Okay. Councilor McCabe, you had your hand up first.
So this change in verbiage in your procedure to raise the budget amount, that you don't have to come to us for approval, is that going to have a caveat of for short lead and have a time frame? So it would only be for short lead time?
We're still working on that language, right? Do we have that language yet?
I have not completed the actual policy language yet, because it's more important at the start to get consensus. I can write a beautiful policy, but if I don't have consensus, it's pointless, truly.
But yes, that is going to be addressed so that it's clear, and we will one of the things that I'm gonna want the utilities to do is to have examples and walk the utility commission through and separately walk the council through, or together, we could have a joint meeting, but walk them through, okay, here's an example, and here's how it gets walked through, and here's what the outcome is. To see if the commissioners and council is agreeable with that process. Somebody had a, Counselor Carter.
And it does make sense. There are a couple of things here. There's some items that have been passed in front of us that are like, okay, like, why are we doing this? Kind of just going through the motions because it's in the chart and we have to do it, you know? And then there's some other times where it actually makes sense, you know?
Absolutely.
You know, so I get why this was implemented, you know, because we're representing our constituents, right? So I get that there is a place with knowing, right? I would say. But then where do we get to the line where we're kind of micromanaging, you know? And I don't want to do that either, right? And I would say that the only way, right, to make this happen, right, is just simple transparency, you know? It's responsible to do, and as you said, I believe if we do this, you're gonna make it a lot easier for us to be transparent, for us to understand, you know?
Absolutely.
So I'm in agreement with that. Not to mention, do we know how many years the way we do things has been? Like, how long have we been doing it this way?
With this policy manual, 1004? Huh?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, it's been in existence for many, many, many years. It was revised in 2006, and then again, there was a few changes that were made in 2000, I want to say 14, and then the most recent revision in 2019.
But as far as the numerics, they've been the same for the last 20, almost 20
They've
years, or
been
longer?
the same. This is the first time we've discussed changing those dollar limits.
Yeah, from prior to 2006, correct?
Well prior
Well
to
prior.
2006.
So just off of inflation alone, you know, we would have to change things a little bit.
Correct. I mean, our material prices are much more significant today.
Absolutely. So we're looking to basically update those values. But in addition to that, we have new processes that we're doing as far as how we're tracking and how we're scheduling. And there was a new form that was rolled out at the last Utility Commission meeting about for tracking of a project. And the tracking of a project is cost, scope, and schedule. So they're looking at what the bid cost was, what the overall cost is, where you are in that cost as your spend rate, and also where you are in your timeline. So does your spend and your time kind of match? Now, in some cases, it's not as simple as taking the total cost of the project and divided by the number of months, and that's how much money you spend per month. That could be a target value, but you're gonna be up and down depending on what phase of the project you're on and whether you spent a lot more and then you spend less at other parts of the project. But what they're doing is they're showing us, and they're coming to the commission with a red, yellow, green kind of concept to let you know if the budget looks good, if the timeline looks good, if everything's on track, or are we in jeopardy, or are we above spend rate and above timeline and those kind of things. Right? I mean, that's what they
Correct.
showed us at this last commission meeting.
An important part of this process. It's not, let us raise our spend limits. It's, we would like to raise the spend limits and modify some of the process, but in return, we would like to give you information that you're not currently getting. And that would be those summary reports, red, yellow, green, on what our project status is. So these are already projects, either budgetary spends that you've already approved, or projects that you've already approved in the non-bonded or bonded capital. So you've done your governance at that part, and then it becomes the utility's responsibility to work within those and make notification if there are concerns. Red, yellow, green.
Deputy Mayor Depot?
Okay. A few things. I was going to actually mention what Councilor Carter mentioned, which is if the limit of $10,000 was made however many years ago, inflation alone makes it sensible to review that, because if materials $10,000 then is like $50,000 now, then the intent of us approving those over and over again is kind of silly. I will say I am hesitant to change to make our oversight less. I know that's not the intent. I'm not saying that that's what you're intending, but a lot of times I think when we are voting on things on this council, and this is one of them, that we have to look forward to when we are not on this council, and this is not the mayor in the seat, and what we're voting on affects 10 years down the road or however down the road. And I think this is one of those things that, to me, requires more consideration because of that. And I think many of us on this council remember when there was abuse in the utility department. And part of my issue is going to be that we do need sufficient oversight, and to ensure sufficient oversight for future councils so that errors from the past do not recur. And again, while that's not happening now, and we have great responsible people now, and that's wonderful, I think this is one of the votes that we have to make sure that we are kind of checking every box and making sure we're not leaving a hole for 10 years down the road, someone who maybe is not as ethically minded as us on the council now, or, you know, something like that. So that is a concern of mine when it comes to this change. I know that this is the proposed version. I think two things would be helpful is to see what it is now compared to what we want it to be. And if we could possibly, I don't know if this is too much work, but in each of these categories, if we could maybe get a number of how many items last fiscal year were approved in each of those categories, that would be very helpful. But I don't know if that's possible. And if that's not possible to like figure that out, or if that's too tedious, but that would help me to visualize, like, if we've only approved one of these items, then changing the number under that category is not a big deal because it's a really low occurrence. You know what I'm saying?
So,
Hold on a minute. So let me address this.
Okay.
Originally, when I was approached, there were gonna be 3 sheets here. One was gonna be like this, one was gonna be a markup with red and blue and green and yellow, I mean, different colors of ink. And then there's gonna be another sheet. And I don't remember who was in the room. Were you in the room when I had this discussion? You weren't in the room. Okay. So when I talked to Noemi about this, I said, my concern is I want a high-level brief. I don't want to get into the weeds, because I was concerned that if I brought that to you and that's the first thing that you saw, was you would say, oh my God, what are you trying to do here? So, yep, we're eventually going to get there. But I chose to keep this at a high level first so that we could talk about it. And then, now that this question has come up, now that you know an expectation, you'll be getting more information, and you'll be getting more into the weeds on this. But I didn't want to overwhelm people on the first discussion, because we haven't talked about this before with this council. So that's why I wanted to go with a phased approach. Deputy Mayor Depot.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing.
Go ahead.
I think it would be a great idea to have a joint discussion with the Utility Commission, because I think that they might raise concerns that we might not think of, and we might raise concerns that they might not think of.
Yep.
And I think we might get a better end product from doing that.
certainly.
Hold on a second. Anyone else at this point? Councilor Piazza?
Just want to make sure I'm understanding. So what I'm seeing, and this may be a really poor analogy, but I'm just trying to break it down, really simple. So basically, it seems like, and I think some of the things that we voted on that had already happened, for myself, how I voted was, I think that had already been done, I thought was fine the way I saw it. But, I mean, when I'm looking at this, I agree with Deputy Mayor Depot as far as like 10 years down the road. So would there be some kind of revision date to look at this and then reapprove it? Like an expiration date. And also, to me, when we're looking at raising it from 50 to over 100,000, so basically how I'm seeing is like we buy a doll, it's going to cost us 99,000. We get to do it, and then we're going to let you know what we're doing with the doll. Basically, this is what the doll says, and blah blah blah. But once it's approved, once you guys are doing this, is nothing that we can do per se. That's what I'm understanding. That you're going to do with this material whatever you want to do. We're just going to get reports on what's going on.
Well, if we're purchasing material for a project, and this is, again, what we're proposing. We're purchasing material for a project. We have a very short lead time, and we need to lock in our pricing. And we do that by issuing a PO. We may not have that opportunity in the current process.
Correct.
So in order to do that, we want the ability to be able to, quite honestly, save the city money. We do have one in particular. There's an estimate of about $400,000 that was an additional spend because of the delay in the process over the past calendar year. That's significant money. So it's not, we're not going to let you know what's going on anymore. Each purchase that becomes part of that project, you're going to see, not itemized as a line item necessarily, but in the overview at the level that's appropriate for this group. Not in the weeds, I think, I'm not sure who exactly said not in the weeds, not micromanaging, but you're actually going to get the reporting at the higher level that's appropriate for your governance.
I think being new here on the council, as far as what I've seen, you guys were here back in the past and how, I guess, abuse of it was seen. I've only read and heard about it. I understand a large portion of it. I understand what you're saying. I'm just looking at as far as representing our constituents and protecting. I think on a whole that's the best thing to do. I think Groton Utilities always present it. This is our best time. This is the best time to buy it. I'm not sure though in our economy if this is always going to stay the same. I'm not sure if we're always to procure and purchase things is always going to be like this where we have to call special meetings. I don't see this as a long forecasted issue. That's what I may be wrong, but that's, seems like when I first came, it wasn't really, and then it's become more so and understandably. But down the road, that's why I'm wondering if this needs to be revised, have an expiration date or something that we look at, because, it may not be something that needs to be 10 years down the road.
Utility policies do have a time frame for review and revision. Typically, they were a 5-year review. We could certainly make it in a 3-year review. I can say that analysts, financial analysts are saying right now that Katrina, which was a localized event, had a 2-year impact on supply chain and material costs. COVID, which has been a more than 2-year event, is expected to have an even longer term impact on supply chain and price volatility. So certainly 3 years, we'll know if that has changed yet. But we can expect this to be volatile for some time, to continue to be volatile.
Totally understandable.
Okay, Councilor McCabe.
We could do that 3-year revisit, but my first thought was to have the verbiage to say for short lead time where it's less than 7 days, 10 days in the procedure so that we don't necessarily have to revisit, because if that case goes away where we're not fighting the long lead time, we're okay. So that was just my thought.
Councilor Norris.
Thank you for your bravery in tackling this.
Why is an IT person doing this? I don't know.
But I will agree with Deputy Mayor. In context, and I understand high level, and we'll get back to it. It would be nice to see, for example, approved budget over 100K. What was it before? You know, that kind of stuff. But I have one quick question, though, that you may be able to answer right away. How will we define a discretionary fund?
So the discretionary fund is part of the director's budget. And there are items in there specifically, line item budgeted. I don't know those line items myself.
Okay.
And certainly the director can speak to that, but there are separate line items specifically under the director's budget.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this? Like I said, this is
information,
informative.
right?
Second?
Is this just information?
This is just
Information.
informative.
Yeah, okay.
That is correct.
Yeah,
There's
then
no, there's no action coming
Yeah,
out of this.
And then I just had a question, just one question, just so we're here.
Okay, Counselor Carter, you have the floor.
I haven't seen it to be an issue. The only time where I would think it would be an issue to come into council would be if it's emergency. If there's something and prices are low and you have to make a purchase, then the way it's set up is that you simply bring that to council. So there's really not, I haven't seen it be too much of a hassle, where we miss out on a specific price range or item because you couldn't get it to council.
Well, actually, we've had increased costs because we couldn't get it to council, couldn't get it through the process. And I'll go back a number of years. Previously, let's say an IT non-bonded capital project to purchase computer equipment. I would have to tell my vendors at the point that they were quoting that their price had to be held for 90 days. Because at that time, I had to go to the Utilities Commission, meeting 1, informational, meeting 2 for a vote, COW, informational, council for a vote. So I was having to have people hold their pricing for 90 days.
Yeah, but how's that now, though?
Now that has been shortened somewhat, but we're still in the 35, potentially 45-day range based on when the quote comes in. And vendors are not holding even at 30 days. They're holding at 7 to 10 days. So it's extremely volatile right now,
But
and it's not a matter of getting the low
No,
price.
no, I understand,
It's a
but
matter
I,
of not getting a higher price.
No, I understand, but I, just being on council, I haven't, because you're bringing this information like now, and if this has been going on, which, I mean, this is what I'm asking, I haven't seen this, I haven't seen a director say, listen, we've missed a bill on this before, we need it now. So the argument of, you know, of that being an issue, I mean, I still don't see it being an issue. I look at, you know, I'm with you. I do think there are certain things that need to be streamlined, but I think as far as getting to us, like I said, and if that is an issue, and now we're getting this, that's an issue, you know, because I've been on council, and I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that to be an issue.
And it's certainly become more volatile in the past 6 months.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're working on more projects,
Yeah.
larger dollar
And
projects.
I understand that. Things are happening in GU. I understand that.
And it's great, and it's volatile in the market for materials.
Okay.
So all of those things are coming together at the same time.
And we have, like Sue said, in the last 6 months, and we've been bringing it up to the commission,
Okay.
right? So now, we're bringing it to the council. So that's why the lag and the delay, that you may not have seen it, because we're dealing with it in other ways.
I got it. The things are different. I know the director, you guys are working on things. I like that. You know, it's things that, correcting things from the past that
Right,
haven't even been, I get that.
Right.
I just, okay.
okay. Thank you. Counselor Sheffield.
You've mentioned, again, the price volatility is now, you know, it's expedited. Is there still, I mean, you could still get projects to the council if it's a 10-day period, to where we could still get a special meeting if need be, as we did before, if something had to be voted on. It isn't something to where, you know, you're gonna lose out again, you know, because you couldn't get a hold of us by chance.
it would require that we not only meet with the council, we would have to meet with the commission. Because that, we report to the commission. So we would have to arrange for a special meeting of the commission and a special meeting of the council and get a purchase order issued in 7 to 10 days. The likelihood of us being able to do that is very slim.
I get what you're saying. You're saying one or two circumstances of past that might be okay, but you're running into that all the time.
Nearly
It'd be
every quarter.
impossible. I see what you're saying.
And the only reason we were able to do it this last time is because there just happened to be a utility commission.
I
Right?
got what
There
you're
just happened to be a utilities commission meeting, and then the director came to me and said, look, we got a challenge here. And I said, okay, what's the downside risk if we let it play out? And the downside risk was, one, they pull their quote, and we ask for another quote, but they say they put us back at the back of the line, and we don't get another quote for 6 months. And so, and then material escalation then. So I said, all right, let's do this. Let's go to the commission, and we'll have a special meeting with the council. I said, when does it expire? It expires on the 20th, which was a Saturday. And I said, okay, fine, let's get a special meeting Thursday or Friday. And because the commission meeting was on Wednesday. And then the director said, well, we have to process it on Friday, so that gives you 1 day. So I asked Jill to
Very
reach out
difficult to do.
to each and every one of you and ask, explain the circumstances and ask, can you make a special meeting? Now, we got lucky and we were able to do that. But, you know, if I am coming to you every couple of weeks and saying I need special meetings, where's your tolerance level for that going to be?
Very low.
Right? So, look, I'm not trying to tell you a story to frighten you. What I'm trying to tell you is the reality of the situation that the utility is in. Because, when Sue mentioned Katrina, there are storms throughout the United States all the time. When power is lost and they gotta replace equipment, they're pulling from the same equipment pool that we're pulling from, right? The large global pool. So we are in competition with the rest of the United States and the rest of the world. So, and with what we saw with COVID is that manufacturing is down, supplies are down, raw materials are down. Remember, they had the chip shortage and, you know, all these other things. We'll have to deal with chips here, but we are dealing with raw materials and in some cases, you know, with transformers and breakers and those kinds of things, reclosers and those kind of things. And so there is some lead time in general. And then now the material availability in order to build the equipment, in order to get it in the system, supply chain so that you can have the lead time, that's what we're up against. And that is the reality, and that's why I said, I want to make sure we've educated our commission, and then we need to bring this to the council so that the council can understand what the ask is going to be of them. So that's why I wanted to do this. This is the first phase of this, and we're gonna be talking again about this so that we can just move forward. Any other questions on this? Go ahead, Sue.
One final comment, the Finance Director Uhas has assisted us in ensuring that all of the items that we're proposing will also comply with the city charter and the requirements of the charter. There's one specific one for unbudgeted items, which we did have to modify in our first revision, but it also is an effort to make sure that we're complying with other items, and that being the charter.
And Councilor
I think it
Norris.
just makes sense, because, one, utilities, your purchases for CIP are drastically more expensive than general government operating purchases, not even close. So this is a very good thing. I think the challenge is gonna be, you know, council realizing that, we gotta let go.
Well,
We gotta just make sure, ask the right questions, that the reports are coming, that we do get the information. Because unfortunately, it's more about we go to Cumberland Farms and we get asked a question and we don't know the answer. So I think this is a good thing and we'll work through it.
And, you know, there's some trust that will be asked of the council, but at the same time, the utility needs to understand not to violate that trust. Because if they violate that trust, it's like a choke chain, right? It gets yanked. And we'll bring it right back to where it is now, and we'll make it, you make it painful, right? I mean, that's not the intent. Everybody wants to work together and get things done, but like I said, the thing that I'm wrestling with, and I've explained this to the director today, and he understands it, and the team understands, is how do you keep the council informed, and how do you keep the business in operation and not strangle the business, right? That's what we're balancing. All right, anything else for Sue? Okay, that's it. Thank you, Sue, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out and explaining this. Okay, Ron, if I could get you here for the phase order transformer. We're still under 742.
By the way, thank you for that. It's a great suggestion to have a combined commission council meeting. We haven't done one of those in a few years.
Yeah, I wrote
And
that down.
It's a good experience for everybody to see the way the utility commission reacts to certain things.
I gotta say, I'll return here, is I went to one of those commission meetings, and it really does open up your eyes to the ins and outs of what's going on, so.
The level of depth discussion, absolutely. Okay,
So this item is a request to purchase. It's actually a refurbishment service to one of the large 1X transformers at Buddington. So part of the transmission project is to do an upgrade at the Buddington station, and we'll be reusing the same transformers. So they're actually gonna basically take it apart, put it all back together, make sure that the oil inside it is all scrubbed nice and clean, has no water in it, and no other impurities, and put the gauges and everything back on so it doesn't leak, because transformers do develop leaks over time. So that is what this purchase is for. I can talk more or less.
we'll leave it at that because we have a hand. Counselor Sheffield.
How long does a refurbished transformer last after with the replacement?
These transformers last an awful long time. They've been in service, I believe, about more than 25 years, and we're expecting to get that again. Routinely, they do come in and they'll clean the oil up and do service on the oil. They put it back in, they seal it all back up, and it stays tight. The key is no water in the oil.
Counselor Norris.
I'm sorry, what are we purchasing?
We're paying for a service
Okay,
to refurbish the transformer.
got
It's
it.
almost like, it's just like overhauling your engine.
Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Carter.
Is the, do we, is this something that we traditionally do, or do we typically repurchase ones that are shot, like transformers that are, is this something that we normally do regularly?
Yeah, well, 175,000 to refurbish a transformer is nothing. How much is the transformer? $750,000
No, no,
transformer.
I understand that. So is it, I'm saying, is this a service, is this something that we do regularly? Or
No, this is a once every
25 years?
15 to 20 year kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So you're asking whether or not we want to get into a contract for servicing.
Yeah, I just didn't know. I didn't know if, yeah, like, what's the reason? And then my other question would be like, are we refurbishing it because we just simply can't buy a new one?
No, well, we
Or we
aren't
wouldn't
go-
buy a new one, you just refurbish it, that's what you do?
Yeah.
It's what you do, okay. Got it, that's why they cost so much. So you just keep refurbishing.
Well, 3 years ago, this probably only cost half.
That's a long time, I know.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
By the way, transformers right now, 3 years ago, you could get them for $3,000, and right now they're $12,000. So costs are just going crazy right now.
Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, in that case, I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of March 7th, 22.
So, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank
Okay, number 5 is 748, donation request. The first one that's on the list is Groton Scholarship Fund. I'm gonna pull that. And the reason I'm going to pull it is because Groton Utilities has already donated $5,000. And one of the things we talked about was not,
Double digit.
absolutely. So that's why I'm gonna pull that request. I found that information out this afternoon. If I would have known that before, you would have never seen it. But I found out this afternoon. I asked Ron to run some numbers for me.
Came in late today.
And he found that. So that's that. The next thing is the aluminum Falcon request.
Just why we're talking about it, just because I did look it up. So far this year, we have only done 2 donations from that 5,000. We did the one to Children First for 1,000 and one to the Martin Luther King Scholarship for 1,000. So you still have
still have-
$3,000 left.
still have
for the donations,
$3,000
just
left.
so you know where you're at. The donations that come. There's nobody, this one got
nobody.
pulled out, but I had run the numbers just to update it, so I just wanted to give you an idea that you still have
Yeah, he
3,000
just,
left for the fiscal
Ron just
year.
want to let you know where we are with the amounts, and that's, we have 3,000 left. Okay, so we'll move on to aluminum Falcons. Martin. Cloudis is here to represent this request. So let me get to that. That's,
Cloud, AS,
right. Martin.
first name Martin.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll give you a little introduction of who I am. My name is Martin Cloudis. I've worked for the utility for 20 years. I am electrical engineer with the team, with the utilities for a year now. And for the last 5 or 6 years, going into my 7th year, I volunteered to be a mentor, and now I'm also the head coach of the robotics team. We are a tax-exempt organization for the Aluminum Falcon Robotics, Inc., and we solely depend on donations and fundraisings for all of our equipment and fundraising and competitions, of which we are preparing right now. Actually, the kids are probably still at the shop working on the robot. We leave on Wednesday for South Florida to compete for 2 days down there. And then we come back and we're going to have a couple more competitions here. What I've noticed, just what I've come here to request is that the utility has some old dual monitor stands, not computer monitors, just the stands that hold them. They've been sitting up in the overstock warehouse for probably 5-6 years now, and just up there going through my routine daily business, I saw them and I said, hey, this is something our students can use. We have a group of students that do what's called computer-aided drafting, CAD, and the concept of what we do is we find out in January what the competition's going to be. We have 6 weeks to design, manufacture, assemble, test, and then go compete. We just ended this weekend the build season. We are going to start competing, and what our students really could use is we have a lot of old stuff, donated stuff, and I think our students could utilize these monitor stands for the CAD work that we do. We also have a marketing team that does all the fundraising for us, that reaches out, and they could probably use some too. We have a lot of donated equipment, and that's what we're here requesting.
Okay, so in the process of identifying this and bringing this to the council, because these were purchased by public funds, either by ratepayer funds or taxpayer funds, you can't just give them away, and you can't just throw them away. Well, you can throw them away, but you can't just give them away, and you can't give them to, first of all, you can't give them to employees, and you can't just give them away without going through the process. So the first step of the process, once it was identified and brought to my attention, the numbers that we have, is that we sent out an all hands to see if any employees here needed monitor stands. And we had a request for 3, right?
An employee meaning work-related.
Work-related, yeah, I don't mean, right, because it goes back to, no, it does, well, thank you for that clarification, because I just said, it doesn't go, you know, these are, you would be surprised that there, in the past, people have thrown things away and then they took them home, right? So, well, I want to stay focused on this. So, we had a request for 2 and then 1 more, so 3 from the municipal side, is that correct, Ron?
Yes, it was a couple from the building department, and then I believe from the police, but I think in the process, we identified additional ones, so we just need to verify what the surplus is.
So what we're doing is we're identifying what the surplus is, identifying there's an additional need, and then I'm going to ask you to move this to the next meeting, and then by that time, we will know how much we have left. And that amount up to 6 will then be donated to the aluminum Falcons. Okay, does that kind of make sense? Because that's what you're requesting.
I'm requesting that, and I'm almost willing to say, you know, as we move forward, more, I know my workstation has grown. One of them was mine. They're just not, the size of monitors that they hold are not conducive to larger monitors, which I've gone to larger monitors because of the amount of work that I do, the nature of my work. And that's what a lot of these monitor stands have gone to the wayside because of upgrading equipment, upgrading the computer system. So, you know, there's a good possibility that in another month there might be more, and then we'll be.
And if
back
there's
to
more,
this.
then we can come back with another request. I think Councilor Carter has his hand up, and then we'll go to Deputy Mayor
Yeah.
Depot.
And just to piggyback what the mayor was saying, I'm just speaking on my my career as a trooper, right? And being around things and being around certain incidents. And I want to commend you as an employee just for not being that person, just to kind of throw it away and take it type of deal, because that happens all the time where things are sitting around and the next thing you know they disappear. And so think they're doing good and obviously not doing the right thing. So I commend you. You got a good employee right there. And then secondly, I want to commend just GU and the mayor and the staff for this transparency, because he could have said take them, but you didn't. You know, you guys did things the right way. So I think that to have on record that shows a lot. Even something as simple as monitors. You know, there's a process, and I commend you for doing it right.
Thank you. Well, we try. Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you. Couple questions. One, is it possible that by next week we will have no monitor stands to give them because employees around need them at their desks?
The request went out to let us know by the close of business today what the needs were, and we only had the couple requests, so there should be some still available up into, I'm assuming, the 6.
And my other question is, have we ever donated money from our $5,000 fund to the robotics team?
They get a donation, monetary donation from GU.
Okay.
I will
That's
say
all.
that GU is one of the sponsors of the team.
GU is a major sponsor.
One of our major sponsors of the team, yes.
Yeah, 2168. Aluminum Falcons. Councilor Norris.
Your Honor, is there a policy on access to sale of surplus city equipment?
Ron?
I don't know that it's a specific policy, but because it was with public funds, it's disposed of or auctioned off, unless it goes through the process where it's donated, where we've had donated fire equipment in the past since I've been here to a station up, I think, in Vermont. So usually if it's something that we want to donate and not go either through the disposal or auction process, we'll bring it through the council to make the rule for the donation.
Now, we do have a policy on use of government equipment. For example, you can't, for example, the guys in, the men and women in Public Works can't take tools home and use them. Same with the utilities and anywhere else, because they're not their equipment. It is purchased with public funds, and so therefore it belongs to the city or the utility. And so therefore, we don't have a loan program, we don't have a, anything like that. It's, although you use them, it's not yours to use, it's public
Great.
tools.
May I
Now, I
continue?
realize that's separate than what you were asking, but it's kind of like a ancillary. Go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, it does make logical sense if no one's using it to donate it and you're here. I just hope that down the road, we try to figure out some procedural policy so that what we donate isn't just because someone had access to that room and saw it and said, oh, no one's using that, let's see if we can get it donated. So how do we allow other nonprofits or 501c3 to see what we have and potentially, there could be a table up there that the Falcons need in their press box.
Well, I will tell you that one of the actions that we have going on now is Ron is collecting a list of material items that we are going to auction for public auction. And that goes out. Another thing that I'm gonna be addressing during this term is cleaning out the basement. Because we have cages down there the departments have, and there are things, to use an umbrella term, that we've had for 5 and 6 years, and I'm like, why do we have them? Right? So it's an opportunity for us to clean up and put away. In this particular case, someone or some ones may have known that some exist, but, I don't know what I don't know until somebody brings it to our attention. Then we say, okay, here's what our process is. And so we're following our process, and it relatively painful. I mean, I don't know how painful it was, but I don't think it's been that bad. And in
No,
the
it's like
end,
2 hours of my life.
and in the end, yes, but think of how good you will feel later on for that small sacrifice, right? And you can tell your students you can use that as a shining example. You can be a beacon for them. So, but yes, we are looking at those kinds of things. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, then I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 7 March 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Martin.
Well, thank you. You guys have a good day. Now I get to go home, pack, get back to this.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I feel bad. Okay, so we are now going to move to, what is my next number, 6? 561, Groton Utilities Financials. This is informing. Well, we do. We have, okay, no, this is important. We have 2 more line items, and then we have executive session. And executive session is going to take a couple minutes. So,
So I'll keep this very quick. I know we
High
haven't
level.
really gone into detail the last few months, and I'll just give you the very quick overview, and if you want to go into detail, we can, but it's pretty much the same story that I've been kind of going through in these overviews, that the electric's running, revenue-wise, above budget, under on, the expenses with the exception of the purchase power, because that's over, so nothing really out of line there. The water department is right on line. From a revenue standpoint, it's a little low just based on the sale for resale. However, the total operating expenses is way below budget based on the delay of the water treatment plant, which I'll just put out a note, that we closed on the note today, the 39 million that was finalized, today for the loan back to the state, and that project closed out with no issues. So, again, you'll see that the operating expenses there are significantly below budget based on that delay. And then the sewer side, the revenue is lagging below budget based on a large industrial customer with deduct meters and having more deducts than originally budgeted for. But on the flip side, the operating expenses are below budget, still leading with a net income in the sewer as well. So it's pretty much the same kind of thing that we've been seeing throughout the year in all three divisions. So that's a very quick, and again, if you have questions as you're looking through it and you need something, feel free to reach out to the mayor with questions and he can get them to me, we can get them answered.
And this is the same packet of information that is provided to the utility commission, and goes through the different divisions to the utility commission. Any questions or comments on this? Councilor Norris.
I just want to say thank you, the accountant manager, for the summaries, the first couple of pages, just really put it.
Yeah, he does a really good job with this report.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very good report, high level, and then we get into detail if we need to. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to 690, which is the city budget presentation.
So there was a request, just kind of how the budget process works and the council's involved. So we're gonna start with that piece of it, and then we'll kind of go into the number piece after. In your packet, you received the departmental budget presentation, the schedule, just when each department will be coming and presenting through the committee of the whole, and then when the mayor gives the actual budget package to you, which is the 1st of April, and then the dates with the departments when they're coming, April 11th, April 18th, and April 25th to review their budgets. And just so the council knows, there was a letter that went out from the mayor on November 17th that gave the direction for the 23 budgets, and that was to do a continuation budget, a continuation of services. So you'll see increases, but it's truly based on maintaining a level services and with that type of budget. So that was the directive. We're still in the process of the review at the mayor level and kind of compiling to see where all of the departments come in. I think we have one or two left for first review, and then we'll circle back and go through there. And then, like you said, once the mayor's done with that process on April 4th, you receive the budget packet and then start the review process with the individual departments. So it's just kind of where we're at with the budget and kind of to give you the directive that was given from the mayor.
There's additional information in the charter about the budget and what council can and can't do. One of the things is, so when the budget is presented to the council, you don't get the line item veto, but if there's concerns that you have, you can cut amounts, and then the department head has to decide how they're going to, what they're going to do, and how they're going to operate their budget. And so, let's see what else. That's it. These dates, the big dates are taken from the charter. And then the specific ones about when I'm presenting to you is in the charter, voting is in the charter. When I'm reviewing individual departments is not in the charter. That's up to my purview, and we have moved people around if we've needed to and those kind of things. But you will have the budget in advance enough so that you can review the budgets. Deputy Mayor Depot.
Have we heard back from the town about the 3-on-3?
No, I'll reach out. Well, I won't reach out tomorrow. I'll reach out Wednesday about 3-on-3 when that is. Also, our 3 is Deputy Mayor Depot, Councilor Norris, Councilor Sheffield. You will receive a briefing from us before you go to that meeting. I know that John Byrd has talked to Mayor Melendez, and Mayor Melendez says he knows who he's going to pick, but I do not know who the members of their There 3 are. I don't know that. As soon as I find that out, I will share it with you. So 3 on 3. And then, so I don't know who, I don't know when. When are we meeting with the town? April 9th. So it's gonna be in the month of March. Where are we? So that's it on the city budget presentation. Any questions on that?
And then the other piece of that, just real quick, is I did the monthly financial. There's nothing to worry about. There's a couple that are low, but that's just because of the seasonal timing of it, meaning the citizens' participation, the Parks and Rec, and the debt service.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on, so that gets us through, let me make sure I've covered everything. That gets us through the agenda. I'll now take a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1-206 Delta to discuss real estate.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We are now in executive session, so turn off your microphones. What's that?
Who did you include in it?
Oh, I want to include all of council and